once in a while, on a regular basis, but not all the time, we can take a person to a place where they say, oh my God, that's exactly how I'm feeling. This line of lyrics, this line, that's exactly what I'm feeling. And that's a power of AI if done with a certain open-mindedness. I think the coolest one was Sky Jordan. This was in the very, very early days of our technology. And what he did is he would turn on his music. And as the music is going, he would click generate and in almost real time pick out lyrics for his beat. He would sort of improvise his rap with LyricStudio on top of the beat in real time and create the music like that. And so Sky Jordan has a whole playlist of videos where he shows how he does it. And it just blew my mind. And it really made me feel that as a technologist, you release something into the wild, and then that something, that entity that you created, is going to be collaborating with people in ways that you could have never envisioned.
That's Dr. Maya Ackerman, founder and CEO of WaveAI, and showing how we can actually design AI to work with people more than trying to get the technology to replace us. In fact, it's so crazy she even helped somebody create an Italian aria who had no musical experience. I'm Declan Dunn, this is the AI Optimist, and let's jump into listening to a new voice that's been around since 2017, speaking truth about how creative we can get with AI.
So take us back in the time tunnel in 2017. You were building AI music systems when most people hadn't even heard, or we didn't really call it generative AI, right? It was machine learning. What was that aha moment or moments when you realized that you want to turn this research maybe into a real product, which became Wave AI?
If I were to pick just one moment, I remember when David Locher had the first prototype of a system that you would give it lyrics and it would find different ways to sing them. So something like "It's a beautiful sunny California day" would become "It's a beautiful sunny California day," or "It's a beautiful sunny California day," right? There's so many ways you can sing it. And it would print out a whole bunch of different vocal melodies for my lyrics, just for little phrases. And my songwriting abilities blew up. It was just like instantly I felt that I went from being, a certain level in songwriting to being 3 times better instantly. I've never felt this way about a research project. It just became immediately obvious. This is 2015. It was immediately obvious that this had to be a product. And this was just one piece of what the product ended up being. But it still took a couple of years to actually gain the courage and really, open a company. So it wasn't overnight. That's just one I knew it had to happen.
You said that Wave AI isn't about replacing artists, but co-creating with them. Tell me a little bit about how you see co-creating, because obviously that's what brought you here.
Already in 2017, there was this lack of trust around it amongst consumers, which is really interesting. And that's definitely been amplified today. And that's because there are so many tools that come in that purport to help us be more creative. But really, they're just doing it instead of us. These tools can authentically be used to profoundly and meaningfully elevate human creativity. The users are smart. They can tell. They can tell what's happening. They can tell if they're getting better or worse. So, one thing that maybe I shouldn't be sharing, but I like to share, is that some of our users stop paying for our products because they have become better songwriters. They got to where they want to go. And I think that's fantastic. And some of our users stay with us forever because they still gain value further up the chain, right? But ultimately, the way to make a successful product with AI is to have it give real value and elevate the user and help them learn and help them grow, not just foster addiction and dependence, right? Because sometimes when you build a product to try to foster addiction and dependence, What you create is a one-hit wonder that nobody comes back to.
Well, and you're in the valley too, which it's almost like, okay, where is the addiction in your model? How do we make users not be able to live without you? Where's your moat? Most people watching this podcast are going to be like, wait, we go to Udio and Suno and I type in a prompt and like a song comes up in 3 minutes and now I'm a musician. And what's interesting is you choose to make your tools actually require more work, more participation from the users. Tell me a little bit about that because I understand it, but it's like counterintuitive to what the investment community is saying, which is, I want to talk about writing a song in 2 minutes.
You hit on so many critical points here. The way that investors wanted things to be done at some point heavily diverged from what I wanted to do, which, is a problem when that happens to a founder. The reason that you see Suno and Udio make it so simple and so efficient is because that's what investors wanted. They wanted a replacement model. And I mean it with all the respect. Suno's technology is phenomenal. I have a lot of respect for them. But if you go back to their pitch, the pitch is replacive. They pitched on a human-free Spotify. Granted, the company has since realized that you need a slightly different point of view. But nevertheless, that's how they got their kind of massive pot of gold, right, is on this really replacive hypothesis. And you can see that in the original models, and you can still see that. You can still see that. When you build something to help people, you do that from the ground up. You do it in the way that you create the machine learning. You do it in the way that the system interacts with users. It's not an afterthought. You don't wake up one morning and say, hey, machine brain, now your job is to help people, when it was built to replace. And so what happens is a lot of people, when they enter these replacive systems, and by the way, text to image models are the same, they kind of can't find a way to interject themselves. They want to, but they struggle. And so then what you find is that 95% of people feel disempowered, and the tiny percent of experts, of the top experts, find ways to still use Suno, to still use Midjourney in a way that elevates their creativity. But when the tools are actually built with that intent from the ground up, it's a completely different experience. Then everybody can benefit from it, not just the top few percent of the most creative human beings, but all of us can be elevated and all of us can be enriched in our ability to express themselves when that's the developer's intent from the ground up.
How about this neural network that y'all base the technology on? How do you connect that? And that's what I saw when I was playing with it, because when I went into LyricStudio, it started with my writing. And of course, I could have just hit what the copyright office calls the roulette wheel of AI, right? Just hit the button. That's a winner. And I mean, there's fun parts to do with that. I actually enjoy the randomness sometimes. But what specific design features in LyricStudio embody the philosophy you're talking about?
The goal from the beginning to the end is to have the person be in the driver's seat. And so we have that in our model, but that's sort of behind the scenes. The interface centers on a big empty text box. So you feel immediately invited to write. The interface is telling you, you're writing the lyrics. Here on the side is some help for you. And the way the help is designed, our default mode, is just one line at a time. So if you don't know where to start, you get some suggestions. If you're suddenly stuck, you can always ask it to kind of help you see different possibilities. But then there's a lot of details that users don't necessarily think about right away. The suggestions are divergent. They don't all take you to the same directions. And that's because there is no right way to write your lyrics. It's about entering a vast field of possibilities. And our goal, unlike something like ChatGPT, with all the respect, an amazing product in so many ways, but our goal is not to take you, hold your hand and walk you to the right location. Our goal is to open your eyes and then you can see, oh my goodness, there are so many places I can go. Okay, where does my heart take me? And one final piece around here, once in a while, on a regular basis, but not all the time, we can take a person to a place where they say, oh my God, that's exactly how I'm feeling. this line of lyrics, this line, that's exactly what I'm feeling. And that's a power of AI, if done with a certain open-mindedness, that is so underutilized right now in other products.
One of the things I find with AI in these early days is this giant move towards the middle of probability. And curious, how did you train this? What sort of training data approach that you're allowed, obviously can reveal, but what did you use for training data?
This is probably one of my favorite questions that I've ever been asked in my life, because it really hits the nail on the head. So many people who build AI go for averages right in the model. It's so common that we forget that it's a choice. You don't have to go for the average. You don't have to, right? You don't have to go for the most likely choice. You don't have to. And so our models don't do that. We don't take you towards the mean. We don't give you the most likely outcome, because we're trying to help you be creative, and we trust you to make a good choice. So we on purpose give you low probability outcomes that we believe are good. And this is like literally encoded in the model. This is how we built it. We built it to give you different, divergent, unique outcomes. And so if you shake the box many times, you keep getting different results, so that you can write a piece of original, interesting lyrics, not lyrics that sound like everybody else's. Creativity, right? And then I just have to mention, it's a gap in intent. A lot of these LLMs are designed to be truth-telling, all-knowing oracles, which is an absurd idea on the face of it. There are so many problems with the idea of having an all-knowing oracle AI. It doesn't make any sense if we really think about it. But it also is polar opposite to the idea of having a creative machine that helps you explore divergent possibilities. And so since we're not trying to build an all-knowing oracle, we intentionally leaned into this divergent creative machine. And so we do not tend towards the mean.
Wow, it's like you're building edge cases in a good way, like, because that's where creativity comes from, the edge, right? It doesn't, well, it can't come from the middle. I'm not trying to be it, but at the start, you talked about how in its inception, Wave AI was really helping you break through your creative blocks. Like I looked up on Curtis King, who I will drop a link in this in the notes here. He did a wonderful, it's a couple years old, but he's a rap artist, had a top hit song using LyricStudio. But here's how the critics would say, because if we go to the model you talked about, where it's the oracle, then the oracle writes the song, not the artist. But you look with Curtis, and it was Curtis writing the song with you. So how do you talk about, maintaining artist ownership, which is okay, but more the identity? You know what I'm saying? How do you preserve the identity? And is there any sort of memory of working with that artist? I mean, is any of that preserved, or is it just like you keep coming in and doing it sort of fresh?
The way that our product works leans into the user. The user is, if ChatGPT is a god when you use ChatGPT, then when you use LyricStudio, you are the god. Maybe this is too far of an analogy for religious people, but you are the one in charge. You are the one in the driver's seat, and the model adapts to you and not the other way around. And so it gets to know you, it gets to know your style, and it adapts its suggestions to you very, very actively, very, very on purpose. And as a result, when different people use it, it's very different. In fact, I've watched so many people use it, obviously, over the years. I keep getting surprised by the style that's coming out of our model, because it's so good at adapting itself around different people. So it keeps producing stuff we've never expected it to produce. So Curtis King's song is very much, very, very much his voice, his tone. The system is helping him express himself. And to be frank, when professionals like Curtis King use LyricStudio, a lot of the lines just come out from them, right? They only use LyricStudio to the extent that they want to, which is how it should be.
But what sort of patterns are songwriters using? Not specifically, but that you found like, wow, what a great use case. How did they do that? Look how they're using our tool.
I think the coolest one was Jordxn. This was in the very, very early days of our technology. And what he did is he would turn on his music, and as the music is going, he would click generate, and in almost real time, pick out lyrics for his beat. He would sort of improvise his rap with LyricStudio on top of the beat in real time and create the music like that. And so Jordxn has a whole playlist of videos where he shows how he does it, and it just blew my mind. And it really made me feel that as a technologist, you release something into the wild, and then that something, that entity that you created, is going to be collaborating with people in ways that you could have never envisioned. I'm going to share just one more example. This was even earlier. This is pre-release. My good friend and San Jose State University art professor, James Morgan, always wanted to write an opera. Always wanted to write an opera.
Mhm.
Now, he doesn't play any musical instrument. Oh, and the opera, he wanted an Italian opera, right? And he doesn't speak Italian. I mean, that's a lot of barriers. And
Yeah.
yeah, right? And the very first time we meet, we go for a walk around San Jose State, this beautiful campus. And I said, well, since you always wanted to write an opera, we have this system. We can retrain it for you on the public domain works of Giacomo Puccini, perhaps, and see maybe you can do something with it. So we build this system for him. You feed it Italian lyrics, and it gives you different melodies in short form, different ways to sing these Italian sentences. And the guy creates Arido Taurajo, this amazing Italian aria, which in part speaks to the talent of this man, right? In the ways he can work in different mediums, but also, I mean, this is 2016, and my mind is completely blown. I'm like, wow, you give somebody a fairly basic AI tool, and they can go out and create something. A non-musician who doesn't speak Italian can create a beautiful Italian aria. Anyways, it's been showcased in a whole bunch of art galleries. I ended up singing the voice for it. It was a blast, but it really kind of very, very early on showed the potential. And it's really, I just want to highlight how the most creative people can take tools in their infancy, and they can take the tools that we have today and create things from them that nobody could have ever expected.
What you're saying here is that, hey, I want to write an Italian opera. And that freedom from the emotional and creative level, because that's what we bring is experience and emotion. Talk to me about how this amplifies artistic expression, because I know that was really always at least the heart of what I read when you did this.
It's one of the best use cases of AI. Science fiction is so beautiful. It's such an amazing thing. But by the time it goes mainstream, the narrative around it has really crystallized into this autonomous, intent-filled, evil thing that ultimately wants to kill us and replace us, right? That's been such a common theme, and I think it's really coloring the way that we see technology. It's coloring also the way that investors see technology. That's why they keep thinking about replacing workers, replacing humans, right? Because that's what science fiction fed into their minds as well. And then it kind of becomes a vicious cycle. But we don't have to believe this narrative. The investors don't have to believe it, builders don't have to believe it, and consumers don't have to believe it. So at each of these levels, we can break these fallacies and intentionally choose to go in a different direction. And one of the most wonderful directions is becoming more human ourselves. How can AI make us more human? How can it help us connect deeper with our emotions, connect more deeply with each other, and connect more deeply with our creative capabilities? And you really can, and there are tools that do that. And you also see humans desperately and successfully try to use popular tools in this way. One of the main reasons ChatGPT is successful is not because you click a button and it gives you the perfect thing, but because it gives you that space, that room to use it differently. ChatGPT can give you feedback on your writing. It can give you criticisms that you can choose, to learn from some of them. It can help you find different ways to say what you want to say. I've actually spent many hours editing the conclusion to my book, the last few pages, because I wanted it to be really good. And I would take each sentence and I would ask ChatGPT to write that one sentence in many different ways. So instead of using ChatGPT to write faster, I ended up writing orders of magnitude slower because I was trying so hard to make it better, right? So kind of like quality over speed. There are so many ways. I've actually had to make myself stop because I was overdoing it, but that's a separate issue. 5 hours into editing, I'm like, okay, this is good. Let's move on, right? But the point is that there are so many ways to use even existing popular tech. And if we choose to use it to elevate ourselves, if we choose to use it to learn and grow instead of just be faster and more efficient, we can already even take what's already there to try to become better. But of course, when it comes to builders, investors, entrepreneurs, we should be thinking in a different way. We should be thinking, how can we build technology? How can we build an LLM or a different kind of model designed to elevate the human spirit? And there are ways to do this. We just need to expand our imagination.